Hi everybody, it's Ms. V, and I'm back today with another blood typing video. Now, yesterday we talked about the A, B, and O blood typing system, and today we're going to be talking about the RH, or the Reese system, which is what tells you if your blood is positive or negative. Now, although I'm showing these two videos separately, I really want to emphasize that these two concepts go hand in hand. We can't think about blood type letters like A, B, and O as being separate from being positive or negative. A blood type, in order to be called a blood type, both has to give you a letter designation and tell you whether or not it's positive or negative. Right? If we ever watch Grey's Anatomy or any other doctor show, I'm sure you've seen a doctor go, "I need a bottle of O-neg, stat," or something of those lines. Notice that they always say the letter A, B, or O, as well as it being positive or negative. Both of these things are going to be very important in making sure that it is a proper blood type and that we do not get any agglutination happening in a blood transfusion. All right, so we're going to get into this and talk a little bit more about what the RH, or the Reese system, is. Okay, it's actually interesting to know that 85% of the population have this other antigen called RH, or Reese. The remaining 15% do not have this antigen. And so that means that a lot more people here in Canada, at least, have positive blood, and it's more rare for you to be negative. So if you actually look at this picture over here, you can tell with any blood type, the negative blood type is a lot less common, right? I have A blood here. Only 6% is A negative, whereas a much larger number of 36% is A positive. Same with O neg, B, and AB as well. Now, AB blood is the most rare type of blood. And then on top of that, AB negative is even more rare at being 0.5% of the population. This means that there are only a few hundred at best in a given country that have AB negative blood. So it's very important that if you do have that blood type, that you're registered with blood donor clinics. But that is for a whole other spiel. Okay, we're going to keep talking about the RH system. So if you're RH positive, this means that you have the RH antigen on the surface of your red blood cell. Just like having an A or a B antigen, this is like another antigen that can be present. Okay? If you're RH negative, that means that you do not have this antigen here. Instead, you will either have a clear surface of your blood cell, or you'll have an A and a B, but you're not going to have that RH antigen. So what I like to always remember this is by saying I tested positive for something, that means that I have it, right? So if I am RH positive, it means that I have an RH antigen. If I am RH negative, negative means that you don't have it. I do not have an RH antigen on the presence of my red blood cell. So instead, I would have the RH antibody swimming around in my plasma here. All right, now remember, antigens are very important when we are donating blood. So individuals who are RH positive can receive blood from both RH positive and negative blood, right? They have this antigen here, so they're going to recognize a other blood type or another sample of blood that is RH positive. It's going to recognize those antigens and accept them. And it can also accept RH negative blood because RH negative blood doesn't have an antigen there for the blood to react to. So if you have positive blood, you can accept both positive and negative blood. Whereas if you are RH negative, that means that you can only receive negative blood back. You have no antigens for RH on the surface of your red blood cell. So if you were to be given positive blood, it would agglutinate, and you would have that nasty reaction happening. Now we can actually add to our blood donation waterfall to help us to remember this. Right? So just like we were talking about yesterday, waterfalls can only go down, they cannot go back up. And that is what allows us to know that type O blood can donate to all 3 other blood types, and A can donate to itself or AB, and B can do the same on the other side here. Now by drawing a little negative sign over here beside our waterfall and a positive at the bottom, we can now say that negative blood can only accept blood from itself. It can only accept negative blood. Remember, there's no arrow that can climb back up my waterfall, so that means it can only accept blood from itself. However, positive blood can accept blood from itself as well as from negative blood going down that waterfall. So that is one very helpful way of remembering. So now, if I were to ask you and say, I have a patient that has B positive blood, what kind of blood can they accept? Well, I can look at this blood waterfall and say, well, B blood can accept either B or AB, or sorry, O, sorry. Yes, so I'd have to look up my waterfall. So if I have B blood, it can either accept B blood or it can accept O. And if it's positive, that means that it can accept both positive or negative blood. So I can now accept B positive or negative, or O positive or negative. Hope that makes sense. We're going to be practicing this a little bit more today and next week to make sure that you feel very comfortable with blood typing. Now, how can blood be used as evidence? Blood samples can be analyzed to determine blood type and DNA, which can be matched to possible suspects. Now, of course, DNA is much more specific. However, blood typing can also be a very good use of class evidence to try and help narrow down the search as well. You can also use different factors about those blood droplets. So you can actually analyze the blood droplets and clues to the location of a wound, the movement of a victim, and the type of injury to help know what happened at a crime scene. You can also look at how those blood droplets are shaped. You can analyze these patterns to know what may have happened at a crime. You can see the angle that maybe the blood was sprayed at or how fast it hit the ground, and this can tell you if someone was running, walking, if the blood pooled in certain areas, you know that something maybe happened and it took a little bit longer for it to occur than if it's just a very fast movement. And we're going to be looking at these things over the next week or so. Okay. So by now, these are some terms that you should be comfortable with discussing, and we will be using quite frequently in the rest of this unit. So you should be comfortable with talking about A, B, and O blood groups, the Rh factor. You should know what an antigen is, an antibody, as well as agglutination. All right, so now that we've gone through the positive and negative, the Rh system, I also have one other thing that I would like you to do today. I'd like you to practice seeing what type of blood types can be accepted and donated by other people. So what we're going to be doing is going to a website and playing a little game called the blood typing game. So for this, you just need to Google blood typing game and click on the first link that you would get to. It'll bring you to nobelprize.ca or .com, and you're just going to click play the blood typing game. Now this may pop up. I'm going to have to click get Adobe Flash Player, and it may look slightly different on your Chromebooks, but you're going to have to manage your block settings and just turn on this option. Okay. Now when I go back here, I now have this option to allow the game to run. Awesome. It's just going to load here. All right, so what I would like you to do is click on Quick Game Same Patients. All right, we're going to proceed. We're going to select one of our 3 patients. Now, if you mess up during this game, you can go back, play it again. It'll always bring you to the same 3 patients as long as you are always clicking on the same 3 patient option. All right. The very first thing we're going to do is draw some blood from our patient's arm. And now we're going to test it. We are going to put it in a bottle that contains A antibodies, B antibodies, and RH antibodies. Okay, we can see that a few different things happened here. These ones, my A and my B samples, stayed very smooth, and I had some agglutination happening here in my RH. Now I can take a quick look at what happens in these test tubes, and I can look at my red blood cells. Here you're going to be able to see what type of antigens are present on that red blood cell. I can see that I have an RH antigen, but I do not have an A or a B antigen. So when you're thinking about what blood type this is, remember that the antigens present tell us what our blood type is. Okay, so I don't have A or B, so that means that this blood type is definitely O. But now I have to determine if my O is either positive or negative. And if I look here, I can also determine this by looking at which test tubes have clumped versus which ones have not. If my test tube has clumped, that has told me that I actually have the RH antigen present, and that means that it has to be positive, right? My blood has the RH antigen present, so I am testing positive for that. So in short, if it clumps, that means that it's there. Awesome. All right. So feel free to go ahead and try the transfusion. Now this is where you have to think backwards a little bit and think, okay, my blood type is O positive, and what kind of blood can my patient accept? That blood waterfall will definitely help you out, so feel free to draw it if that will help you. Now I know that my patient is O positive, and they can always accept their same blood back, so that's usually the first one I go to. Yes! Awesome. Now go ahead and select your other 2 patients and try those out on your own. If you'd like to, you can also play this game with random patients that they will change for you each time if you want some more practice. So have fun, and I hope you have a great weekend, everybody. And I'll see you on Monday. Take care.